Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Diamond Moment. I'm your host, Luciana Cordero, and today I have the honor of being accompanied here by Cory Schafer, who is the president of the ISKA. Hi, Cory, how are you?
I am quite well, and thank you for saying it's an honor. That's lovely.
No, yes, definitely. Because you've been president of the ISKA for a very long time now, since 1997.
Longer than you've been on the planet. Yes, it's true. It's
Yes,
amazing how the years go by, and it's been a great, great run. It really has a wonderful opportunity to serve athletes and to serve the sport, and I intend to keep that ball rolling.
yes, it just shows your commitment to this role and this sport. And I wanted to know what originally drew you to this role and what has kept you passionate about it over all these years.
Well, that's a good question. I've been told many times, "Oh, you have a dream job." I didn't dream about it in advance, though. When I graduated college, I went to work as a suit at American Express. Um, it was American Depressed for me. I was very unhappy. All I knew is that I wanted to return to Gainesville, Florida, and continue to train in the martial arts. Um, so I tell people, listen, my first professional gig in the martial arts was cleaning the dojo in exchange for my classes. So I don't want to hear any excuses. Um, I became a professional instructor. I was training as a kickboxer. I was training kickboxers. One thing led to another. I found that I had talent in regulation, in writing rules, in training officials, that administrative side, and it appealed to me. I think it's a noble calling. People who work on the regulatory side, I always say, who accepts a job where if you do it perfectly 1,000 times in a row, ain't nobody standing up to cheer. But one questionable call, they're going to roll the bus back and forth over you forever. And I think that takes special people doing special work. That's why I love officials. I love the culture of the regulatory side of combat sports. And, every day I get up saying to myself, all right, what can I do today? What can the ISKA do to create better, safe, and fair opportunities for athletes? How do we help promoters be successful? Because only through accomplishing those two things does the ISKA continue to grow.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, trying to figure out like those different things that you can like implement and that you can do to continue to grow. How do you find it to like balance tradition with innovation when it comes to like combat sports sanctioning?
Well, that's a really good question. You're balancing tradition with innovation. If you're not forward thinking, you're not thinking. That being said, we recognize the limitation of our role. The sport is about the athletes. It's about the athletes. And second to that, it's about the promoters who are taking the risk to present shows, the financial risk. So we understand that we're in a support role as a partnership to ensure safety, ensure fairness, and that has a different look than it did a generation ago. And I'm sure that moving into the future, it'll have a different look. So we just try to stay on the frontier of that. I'm very involved with the Association of Boxing Commissions, which is the North American-based organization that supports the state athletic commissions. So I spend a lot of time working on committees, the MMA Rules Committee. I was on the committee that wrote the Unified Rules of Kickboxing. I was on the committee that just completed the Unified Rules of Muay Thai. So you join efforts with other great leaders doing the same things, and you hope that it leads to contributing to, like I said, the bigger stage for the athletes, the better opportunities, and certainly tied into ensuring safety and fairness.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Safety and fairness are completely important, especially in a sport that's so physical, like martial arts. And I wanted to know, like, from your perspective, what role has ISKA played in helping like kickboxing and MMA gain global legitimacy?
Well, I think that global, you, you know, combat sports has been around forever, and it will be around forever. I would argue that every sport is a combat sport. Football is ground acquisition. Basketball, plant the flag. It's just a question of how it's painted. Combat sports is very honest in that respect, in that, the combat aspect of it is just right there in front of you. Like I said, different combat sports also have different levels of popularity and mainstream attractiveness depending upon region. For instance, kickboxing is much bigger in Europe than it is here, where MMA dominates. Muay Thai in Asia. We're not interested in creating a revolution to tell fans what they should like. We want to participate in the evolution of combat sports, because in the end, it's going to be the athletes, their desires, it's going to be the fans, their reaction to the athletes' performances, and it's going to be the promoters who are going to move in the direction of promoting shows that feature sports that are most attractive. Our role is, and I go back to ensure safety, ensure fairness, and help the other three parties involved, the fans, the athletes, the promoters, help everybody have a successful experience.
Definitely. I think it links back to what you said before, that when you're doing everything right, no one can tell. But the second that you do something wrong, everyone's like on your toes and everyone can tell that something's
Even
wrong.
questionable, not even wrong. And,
Yes.
I'm constantly amazed, although after all this time I shouldn't be, at how little, even people with a lot of experience in the industry, how little they know about the actual rules and regulations. But this is something we accept. And like I said, that's why it's a noble calling. Judges don't expect to be loved. Referees, the best thing they ever said about a referee, that's right. If they said nothing, you did an extraordinary job. And like I said, that's why I love the culture of officiating and the regulatory side. And that's why it's so important that all regulators, kind of share a brotherhood of support for each other. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, in your time as president, you've been involved in writing, well, a lot of different rules for kickboxing. And I wanted to know, like, how do you feel like the rules that you've helped write have shaped the way that the sport is regulated today?
It's I do have a unique kind of view at that, because I've been doing this a long time, and the writing of regulation, it's a unique thing, and I've had the opportunity to do this for the K1 organization, to do it, like I said, in Muay Thai, for MMA, at different levels, of course. But I also did this for a project called Chuck Norris's World Combat League. And I like to use that as an example, because it was a total unique presentation of combat sports in a team presentation. And it was the opportunity to start with a blank page and say, all right, we're going to put this together. And writing rules, and how you go about it is really, it's different than people think. You don't start with the regulations, just like when you're creating a scoring system for how to evaluate the fighters. You don't start with the scoring system. You start with, what do you intend for the sport to look like? And then how do we create a scoring criteria and a numerical scoring system that reinforces that increases the odds that the fighting action looks like that? And that way you tailor the performances. And again, from beginning to end, there's a systems of checks and balances, because we know that athletes by nature will risk. They will risk beyond what is reasonable. We say that, in regulating combat sports, you can't let the tail wag the dog. We understand the nature of the athletes. We understand the culture that athletes will put themselves at risks. I mean, what kind of person intentionally makes an appointment to get locked in a cage with another person who trained for 8 weeks to strike them unconscious, or to sublux a joint, or to strangulate them? Regular people don't do that. We love our fighters. They are not regular people. They are heroes going back for as long as there's been mankind. The prototype of the person that wants to test themselves in that way is unique. They are heroes, and they require other people to keep a check on the situation to make sure there's a level playing field. That's what we do, and that's what I try to make sure that all of our officials in the 61 countries where we operate on 6 continents be that check and balance to the enthusiasm of the athletes who whether they recognize it or not are at risk.
Yes, we've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of different fighters, and every time that it comes to the question about like what got you into this, no one can really like give a specific answer. It's just like passion that gets them into this and just like the love for the sport. And this kind of leads me to the next question that I wanted to make to you. And it's like, what advice would you give to the young fighters or promoters that are entering the sport today?
Well, it's two different advice because you're talking about two completely different entities. The fighter who is the performer, the promoter who is the presenter. The advice I give for fighters is surround yourself with good people of character. I've seen a lot in this industry, and when I look at the challenges of the industry, I think the challenges more often than not are not associated with the promoters. They're not associated with the fighters. They're associated with the trainers and the managers who don't, in my opinion, take the responsibility that they should take in protecting their fighters. I'm amazed at how many trainers really don't understand the rules. How can you be adequately preparing your athlete if you don't understand the rules? How many times have I been in a situation where a fighter, of limited ability was scheduled to fight someone of equal skill, but that fighter fell out for some reason. And then, the promoter is asking, well, can we put this guy in? And he has way more experience. The promoter, of course, it's in their nature. They want to preserve the fight. I get it. The fighter, I trained for 6 weeks. I want to fight. The managers the manager and the trainer, this I love. Oh, we'll fight him. What? I'm sorry, we'll fight him? Oh, is it going to be tag team? Are you going to fight the first and third round? No, we'll fight. No. Oh, you're all in agreement? Great. No, but you know what? The responsibility for regulating the event says, oh, well, you're 10-1 and you're 3-3. No, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to allow that. So, for the fighters, I would say connect with a fight team that isn't limited to teaching you fighting skills, but is going to help you as the fighter make the best decisions that protect your long-term best interests. Promoters, promoting is like any other business. You don't go into promoting thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to be just like UFC and I'm going to make a bunch of money on this first show. You don't open a restaurant thinking that it's going to be profitable the first week, the first month. You need to invest in a business. You need to build a following. You need to, if you have to make money on your first show, that you're not approaching building the business of a promotion properly. Your first event should be to build an audience who is very satisfied and very happy with the presentation of your show, to build relationships with the fight teams. Invest. That way you're going to see a return and you're going to be able to build a product, which is your promotion, based on great relationships with wonderful athletes and good fight teams, and earn the loyalty of fans that will come back time after time.
That's great advice. I think that's amazing advice. And I wanted to link now a little bit and talk about the Battle of Tampa Bay that's approaching. It's really close now, May 10th. And I wanted to ask you, what do you think fans can anticipate from this year's event? And how has ISKA's involvement influenced like the evolution over the years and making sure that this event can happen?
Well, let me answer the last part of the question first. Whether promoters know it or not, whether fighters know it or not, and it's okay. They don't need to know it. Every day, ISK, for instance, here in Florida, our state director, John Morrison, we worked very closely with the State Athletic Commission, which is the government agency that is in charge of how combat sports happens in the state, to protect the sports, protect the opportunities for the athletes, protect the promoters. That's a day-to-day business working in conjunction with the State Athletic Commission here in Florida. The executive officer, Tim, is a class act, very experienced. And, we foster a culture of compliance, of cooperation, because we all want the same things. We love the athletes. We want them to be able to compete. We want the promoters to be successful, but it has to occur in an environment of full compliance. That's what makes the sports work. So that's that aspect of it. As far as the Battle of Tampa Bay, that's a legendary promotion in the Tampa Bay area. My friend Amir, I've been friends with him 20 years. He's earned my respect, my admiration. He understands promotion. I've never seen that show where it wasn't sold out, where the energy in the room wasn't electric. Once again, he has an international event where he has Team Germany versus Team America. If it gets much better than that, I don't know how it does. It's just absolutely wonderful. He puts on a great show. He has elite athletes performing at a high level against great competition. You didn't ask this question, but I'm going to give you the answer anyway. People ask me, well, who do you think is going to win? And I always say, I know who's going to win. Everybody who is smart enough to buy a ticket, because they are going to witness the unique drama that is combat sports. There is no other form of entertainment like witnessing the unique drama, seeing heroes overcome great odds, seeing heroes do heroic things. That's why, listen, every time I'm at ringside, every time I'm at cage side, every time I'm at pit side, before that first bell, my heart is still like this. And I always say, if I don't feel that way, well, then it's time for me to move on. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the athletes. I'm a fan of the promoters that present great shows. And Amir, Battle of Tampa Bay, absolutely a great show.
Yes. So, well, we keep telling our audience to be like looking out for that and to get ready because it's going to be a big show from what we've heard so far. And yeah, it's going to be amazing. So they should definitely stay tuned. And I just wanted to keep asking you about like moving on to like the future of, like rules and regulations for kickboxing and for like martial arts. What do you think about like the new direction that technology is taking? Like, do you think that technology could play an important role in the way that martial arts are regulated in the future?
Well, I think that technology has played a critical role already and will continue to develop this role in terms of information. Okay. I remember once speaking to the executive officer of the Nevada State Athletic Commission at the time, and he said to me, and I carry this with me all the time, if we do one thing right, only one thing, if we do only one thing right, and that is to not allow an athlete who's been knocked out that should be on suspension, allowing them to compete. People that don't know a lot about combat sports, they're a football fan. Well, the guy gets knocked out on the field. They throw him back in the second half. What? In combat sports, properly regulated, if an athlete gets knocked out, minimum 30-day suspension. You can't fight again 30 days. If it's a KO, momentary loss of consciousness, even 60-day suspension. So, technology has allowed us to reports from all over the world because we live in a different era now where there's athletes traveling, there's athletes competing in different sports. Athletes that box also do kickboxing, also do Muay Thai, also do MMA. So through the Association of Boxing Commissions, mandatory reporting and recording requirements, we should be able to vet fights, not just is this a fair fight based on their record, but to check suspensions. Things like that is just simply invaluable because, we know athletes are the athletes, so fighters are fighters. I feel fine. I can fight. I'm sure you do. No, we can't allow it. Sometimes you need to protect them from themselves. So technology in other ways, we now, whenever we can, we use video screens at ringside and at cage side. So the judges not only have a view of the action, but they have a video screen and access to the cameras so that in case the referee's in the way or in case the action is occurring on the far side of the cage and they can't see, they can default to watching the video screen. Again, really good technology. Technology will continue to impact everything that we do, but it will always come back to human judgment, human evaluation, because it's such a human pursuit. I said that when you look at the athletes, their need, their desire to test themselves in this uniquely human way that goes back for as long as there's history, that will require human evaluation.
Yeah. And final question before we end this great talk, I wanted to finish on a high note and ask you about what is the most significant milestone or moment that you've experienced in your years as president of the ISKA?
Wow. I don't know that I can give you a great answer on this because I've been blessed. I look back, I was a martial arts guy, turned his back on corporate America saying, I wanted my life to revolve around something where integrity wasn't the punchline to a bad joke. So I've been able to day to day just try to do the right things for the right reasons for people who for a type of person, an athlete who pursues combat sports, who I respect and admire. So it's not, although there's been a crazy things that I've been able to experience. I mean, I slept over at Chuck Norris's house. I mean, and sitting there thinking, how did I get here? I've been at the K1 Grand Prix final and 60,000 people. I've traveled to 31 countries. I don't think I've ever bought a plane ticket or paid for a hotel room. It's been a crazy run, but it's for me, what is meaningful is the day-to-day, what you'd call the grind, the day-to-day pursuit. I've been blessed to do work that's important to me, that I feel like I'm good at, and to serve. Just day before yesterday, I was on a phone conference with Big John McCarthy, and we've been tasked to work on redefining what a 10-8 round is in professional MMA. We're talking about $1 billion industry. Now, I mean, we're not doing it on our own. We're a subcommittee of a committee of another committee. So there's a long approval process, but just being in a position to contribute. It's all I've ever wanted. That's always been my intention.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for talking to us, taking this time to share your story with us. It has been really inspiring getting to hear your journey and see where you are at today. And it's always inspiring to hear people talk about the things that they're passionate about. And you're definitely very passionate about your job. And like you said, like, if you didn't feel that excitement when you were there, like next to the fight, then you wouldn't be doing it anymore. And I think that's something really important to have in mind, especially like for young people who are getting into this industry and are trying to find their way. It's been really inspiring talking to you today. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, not just this industry, though, because I talk to young people all the time. And I just say to them, listen, I understand there's a financial requirement, but you know what? Figure out what you're passionate about. Run at it hard. Do the work. Do the work. You'll find a way to monetize it, and it's going to lead you to the most rewarding lifestyle. Thank you.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Cory. It was great talking to you today.
You're welcome. Be well.